G'day viewers, it's Michael here again and welcome back to SingleRacer. Now today I want to answer a very simple question. Does racing in VR actually make you faster? And so for any of you out there that are on the verge of buying VR, thinking about it for sim racing, or even just people that like the look of it and think, oh geez, that'd be nice to get one day, I'd like to answer that question. But unfortunately, I have to answer the question in two stages or phases. And that is, does VR make you faster? No, not initially. But if you ask me after a month, does VR make you faster? Then I'd answer that with the simple word, absolutely. So just for the record, I drive 5 to 10 regular cars in Assetto Corsa. So these are the cars that in the list that you can pick when you go online on a server. If they are there, they're the cars that I always pick. And in every one of those cars, I have beaten my lap time. And I'm talking about, say, RSR, HOTLAPS, I have beaten my record personal best lap times. And so when I first bought my VR headset, I was absolutely raving about how immersive it is, and I still rave about that to this day. The feeling like you are genuinely sitting in a car and not only feel like you're in the car, but the car feels naturally proportioned. And if I move the seating, in Assetto Corsa you can move the seating back, forward, up, down. If I move that to a certain position and then turn my wheel, I genuinely feel like I'm in the car and turning the virtual wheel. And so, based on me raving about how good it was, Mike Smith over at Sim Racing 604 not long after bought his, and thankfully he feels the same way. But what I did notice was, it was interesting that you ask the question automatically, does VR make you faster? But one of the other comments that I read quite a lot and on other channels as well is, people were concerned with, well, I'm not worried about does it make you faster, but do you lose time? Like, does it actually make you slow, or can you just race to what you currently are capable of in certain cars? And so I gave this a great deal of thought, and I realised that in my own personal life at home, I'm an analogy person, so I like to use analogies to help explain to people who don't know about a particular subject, to try and relate another subject to that so they better understand what I'm trying to get across. Now, luckily in sim racing, there's the perfect analogy, and that is your car. And so I can't speak for Mike Smith over at Sim Racing 604 about whether he felt it made him faster, only he can answer that. But in my own personal opinion, let's start with phase one. Does VR make you faster? Not initially. So the way I use the analogy to explain that is, I just want you to think that you're now in your own car and you want to go for a fast, like a fun Top Gear type style drive, fast but just relaxed, say along the coast or along the beach line, something like that. So you're not taking your wife in an emergency where all you're focused on is how to get to the hospital because she's pregnant quickly. You're relaxing, but you're just driving. So think about when you get in your car, you turn the key automatically. You don't even think about it. When you go to turn the radio on with your 8-bit cassette, 8-bit cassettes, cassettes that you put in. Okay, when you turn the radio on and you put the single CD in, CDs, hang on, no, sorry, I got it. When you go to automatically switch on your multimedia center and you turn on Spotify, you do it without thinking. You don't even give it a thought. And that's what I'm trying to get across, is that when you drive for years to your monitor, in my case, I actually put my wheel on. So I keep my wheel in a cupboard away, and then when I want to race, I actually connect it to the table. So whether you've got that the way I have, or you've got it in a permanent kind of rig kind of thing, you just do it automatically without thinking. But now imagine, in the analogy, you buy a brand new car, and especially some sort of advanced car. Suddenly you hop in and, I might be over exaggerating a little bit, but you might even have to think about, oh geez, how do I turn the key on? Oh, that's right, I've got to press the button. And you go to turn the multimedia on, and suddenly it's a whole different setup. The buttons are all over the place. You're going, crap, I can't even. So if you think of that in that VR sense, when you put the helmet on, everything seems alien to you. It's all foreign, it's strange, it's weird. So it relays exactly like you would buy your own new car. Now, what happens, of course, is you start, the most important thing in a new car, of course, is you learn to drive it just smoothly. And like in my case, I even did a thing where I pressed the switch 3 times trying to get the wiper to clean the window, and wondering why it wasn't working, and then realised I was flashing people 3 times because I was using the wrong one. So just things like that, and all you're focused on is to be safe in your new car when you're driving. And then after a week you go, oh okay, that's the button to make the volume louder, that's the button to turn the air conditioning on, and it all falls into place. And that's exactly like with VR. So to give that example in the VR sense, is that when you put the VR on, you no longer can see your keyboard. So in my case, I have one of those Microsoft keyboards that is a curved one where the keys are split into 2 halves and you've got this centerpiece. So after 3 or 4 weeks, I was just understanding that because I got the headset on, I can't see it. So with my hand, I would feel, okay, that's the button in the center that turns something on. So if I just go to the left, that's the F6 key, and if I just go to the right, that's the F7 key, and you just get so used to it, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. And so now we step into phase 2, and that is, does VR make you faster? Well, in my case, absolutely. And the reason is that you get to that stage after a month where everything becomes natural. It's so automatic to have the headset on, you feel comfortable, you know your chair dimensions, your keyboard dimensions, all that sort of stuff. So now I want to give you 2 video examples of why that can help make you faster. And the reason I want to do that is because one of the most common things, both Mike Smith and I said the same thing, is that when you put the VR headset on, you are so immersed and truly believe you are sitting in a real car. But when you record that and try and translate to video on YouTube, you don't get the feeling, because YouTube goes back to that 2D type view. But there is a way to actually show you that kind of a little bit of how VR helps you become faster. So I'm going to show you that now. And so the way I'm going to try and show you that is show you a group of corners that's on the Nordschleife that I did in a Hotlap in a previous free mod car. This is the F1 car, the Williams FW24, and I did a Hotlap in it. But what I want to show you now is not to look at the actual apexes, but look at this antenna like thing in the middle of the car. Just keep your eye focused on that and watch as it goes through the corners. You see this kind of static view of that aerial. I don't know if it's an aerial, but I'm guessing. But now I'll show you that same footage from that set of corners in VR. Okay folks, so here we are in the same scenario, and excuse the quality of the mic, but I do have to say, for people doing research on whether they want to buy a VR headset especially for sim racing, I was quite surprised that it actually came with a mic. I didn't know. I knew it came with headphones, and they're very, very good quality headphones to me, especially given that they come essentially free with the headset. But the fact that it has a microphone too, so that's a cost-cutting thing, that you don't actually need a separate microphone. Even though it might not be the best quality, it's still a great bonus that you also get with the headset. Now when I did the Hotlap, I did a mimic pretending like I was checking the front tyres. So I leant like that. Yes, my tyres aren't flat, good, I can start the hot lap. But in Australia, when I read car reviews, I often hear about the B-pillars between, you know, the side window of the doors and the windscreen. And they say when in some cars that when you have a really wide B-pillar, like, be careful because there's a chance you could hit a pedestrian by not seeing them when they're hidden by this B-pillar. And that's what VR gives you now, is that thing of, everyone talks about how you can see the apexes, but now look at that antenna. I didn't realise that it was, you know, 3, whatever they are. I'm guessing they're antennas, but see how clearly now I can see what they are. So there's a thing of, it's fine to say, yeah, the B-pillar, that's just my ghost car taken off. But look how accurate I can look into the corner, and I could even over-exaggerate and lean and put the wheel right next to the curb there. So that's what is hard to explain that VR gives you. It's that all-around sense of what the car is doing. So as you go through these bends, you naturally lean into the corner there and see the apexes. So, you know, it's so beautiful just to lean over. I can put the wheel almost exactly where I want it, and that's what it gives you. So let me give you now 2 other examples of that overall space that VR gives you that is so hard to explain. And so, folks, the second extension of that great thing that VR can give you about seeing apexes is seeing all around you, and being able to see all around you theoretically in VR helps in 2 arguably different situations. So the first might be if you're a drifter, where, like, for instance, if I want to drive, I'm on the tourist version now of Nordschleife, and see, I can just look out. So I can see that red truck, but if I then do something like where I'm drifting, I don't have to look ahead over the bonnet. I can look sideways, completely sideways, and just see what's around me. Am I going to hit the tree? Things like that, left and right, all around me. So that's one great scenario where, and even if I wanted to, I can see right in the back. And that's what I mean by it's difficult to get that sense that unless you have the VR on, you truly don't comprehend how much it feels like being in a car. So, like, I can literally, like, pretend like I've got chips in the back seat there, and I'm reaching over and grabbing the chips from the back and just continuing on with my drive. So now let's go to a race situation. Okay, folks, so here we are in the final scenario, and this to me is the absolute best of what VR can offer and why it can actually genuinely make you faster once you settle into it. And I had a fantastic experience just this week racing. It was a server on the Assetto Corsa online servers, and it was on Road America. Well, actually, I stand corrected, it was the opposite to RSR. It was the SRS app where you can race against real life opponents, and it was on the Road America with the MX-5s, one of my favorite cars, the Cup car. And so imagine now this scenario where we go from, say, like a clear hot lap where you might have nothing on screen, where instead I'm in the middle of a 20 field race. I start and I go from here and switch on all the apps. So I've got my track map here, I've got Helicorsa in the middle, I've got all the things I need, but I can see all around me. So I can take off, and I of course miss the start because I'm too busy talking. But the sense now, as an example, if I'll just take 1 or 2 corners, but see, I can see behind now, I've got clear vision at the mirror, and but it's always a moving constant. So I can physically lean over into the mirror to have a proper look. I can look closer. I move like I'm really moving in real life. And I'll just give a scenario there where if I slow down and I can see the cars beside me. So if I want to, now I'm not driving properly at all, but see there, if I didn't want to smash into that car, I can lean over. So as I'm the slow driver of the group, I can see, yeah, the car's coming beside me, now I can move over. Things like that, just where I have such a superb sense of surround that VR gives you that you just can't explain. So I hope that makes up your mind if you're doing a bit of research that yes, VR can definitely make you faster. So let's now settle that once and for all in a 2D HOTLAP I did ages ago and see just how fast it could possibly make me. And so finally folks, when I was contemplating how best to present Does VR Make You Faster, I came up with the idea because I mentioned Mike Smith over at Sim Racing 604 because we both happened to buy headsets. He bought his just not long after I did, so he understands that thing of the immersion factor and how much it truly feels like you're sitting in a real car. But also because not long before we both bought our headsets, we did a challenge together in this car, the DALLARA, and I thought it was a great way to prove to myself, could VR make me faster in this car? And the reason is because he initially did a HOTLAP and I challenged that HOTLAP in what I call my channel challenges, and he of course had to reply, so he did a better time, and then I followed up with a fourth time and we left it there. But we did all those races without VR. So what a perfect way for two reasons to go back and see in a non-VR sense now racing it in VR is, could I do a faster lap? But also because for me personally it's slightly sad news that, or it's actually very sad news, that RSR is closing its doors in March, so RSR will probably no longer record HOTLAP records. And this is one of the cars you can get, a free mod car from the RSR website, and I'll have a link to that in the description. So I thought, what a better time to maybe grab, if you don't have this car, grab it now while you still can. The website might even disappear. I don't know what's going to happen in March, but I thought, what a great way to round out the fact that Mike Smith and I had these challenges. I'll do another HOTLAP. I'll see if VR does genuinely make me faster, because I can't speak for Mike Smith, but in my case I've never gone back to this car since doing those HOTLAPs, so I can genuinely get a sense of whether VR can make me faster. But we'll just see what happens and we'll take it from there. And like I said, I'll have a link to this car for as long as the website stays open. And we'll finish it off by saying this is Michael signing out for SingleRacer, and I'll catch you next time. So see ya and let's go racing.